The Grand Hall of the Galactic Coalition was the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. It floated in the empty space above Velo Prime, a station so massive that small moons could fit inside its central chamber. For 10,000 years, the greatest species of the galaxy had gathered here to make decisions that shaped the future of trillions of lives. Today, the hall was filled with fear. Ambassador Yuna of Earth stood at the back of the chamber, watching the alien delegates argue and shout. She was a small woman with short black hair and calm eyes. Her simple gray uniform looked plain compared to the elaborate armor and ceremonial robes worn by the other species. She did not speak. She simply watched and listened. The Torak delegation stood at the center of the hall. They were massive reptilian creatures, each one standing over 8 feet tall. Their bodies were covered in thick scales that could stop bullets, and their arms ended in claws that could tear through metal. High Commander Malik, their leader, slammed his armored fist as he spoke. "The Hollow have returned," he roared. "We have known this day would come. The Torak are ready. We have been ready for 1,000 years. Our warriors number in the billions. Our ships darken the stars. Let the Hollow come. We will crush them." The Torak delegates behind him roared in agreement. Next, the Vela spoke. They were insectoid creatures with 6 limbs and exoskeletons harder than diamond. Their representative, a tall female named Kira, clicked her mandibles as she addressed the hall. "The Vela swarms stand prepared," she said. "Our hive ships are already moving to defensive positions. We have studied the Hollow's previous invasion patterns. We know their weaknesses. Victory is simply a matter of correct calculation." The Orin were the last of the major powers to speak. They were beings made of living crystal, their bodies glowing with inner light. When they spoke, their voices resonated like music. "The Orin have waited 10,000 years for this moment," their elder sang. "Our resonance weapons were designed specifically to destroy the Hollow. We will shatter them as we shatter stone." One by one, the other species made their declarations. The Mortis spoke of their psychic warriors. The Krell boasted of their biological weapons. The Thane promised their gravity cannons would tear the Hollow fleet apart. Ambassador Yuna remained silent. High Commander Malik noticed her standing in the shadows. He turned his massive head toward the human delegation and let out a sound that might have been laughter. "And what of the humans?" he asked. "What does Earth offer to this great alliance?" Every eye in the hall turned to Yuna. She felt the weight of their stares. Some were curious. Most were dismissive. A few showed open contempt. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 300 years ago, a blink of an eye compared to species that had ruled the stars for millennia. They had no natural weapons, no armor, no psychic abilities. Their lifespans were embarrassingly short, barely a century for most of them. In the eyes of the Coalition, humans were children playing at being adults. Yuna stepped forward. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. "Earth requests 60 standard days to prepare our response," she said. Her voice was calm and steady. High Commander Malik stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that shook the air. 60 days? He repeated. "The Hollow are coming to destroy everything we have built, and the humans need 60 days to decide if they will even fight?" Laughter spread through the hall. The Veleth clicked their mandibles in amusement. Even the orange glow seemed to pulse with mockery. Yuna did not react. She simply stood there, waiting for the laughter to fade. "We do not need time to decide," she said when the hall grew quiet again. "We have already decided. We will fight. We need 60 days to prepare." "Prepare what?" Malik asked. "Your species has no great fleet, no super weapons, no warrior tradition worth mentioning. What could you possibly prepare in 60 days that would matter?" Yuna looked at him. Her expression did not change, but something in her eyes made Malik's laughter die in his throat. "You will see," she said. The coalition granted her request. It was not a difficult decision. No one expected the humans to contribute anything meaningful to the war effort. 60 days was nothing. The other species had been preparing for this conflict for centuries. As the meeting ended, and the delegates returned to their ships, Kira of the Velith approached Yuna. The insectoid warrior towered over the human woman, her compound eyes studying her with cold calculation. "I have analyzed your species," Kira said. "Your bodies are weak. Your technology is primitive. Your numbers are small. I calculate a 0.3% chance that humanity will survive the coming war." Yuna smiled. It was a small smile, but it was genuine. "Thank you for your analysis," she said. "I will be sure to share it with our military commanders. They enjoy a good challenge." Kira tilted her head, trying to understand the human's response. She had expected fear or anger, or perhaps desperate pleading for protection. She had not expected a smile. "You are strange creatures," Kira said finally. "Yes," Yuna agreed. "We are." She walked away, leaving the confused Velith behind. As she boarded her shuttle, she pulled out a small communication device and sent a single message to Earth. The message contained only 2 words: "Begin preparations." 12 billion kilometers away, on a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star, those 2 words set something in motion. Something that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. Something that would make the mightiest warriors in the universe fall silent. But that was still 60 days away. For now, the galaxy laughed at humanity. They would not be laughing for long. The Coalition Military Observatory Station floated at the edge of human space, watching. For 10,000 years, the station had monitored new species as they joined the galactic community. Its sensors could detect the ship's engine firing from 3 star systems away. Its computers could analyze any communication signal, no matter how encrypted, on day 1 of humanity's 60-day preparation period. The station detected movement in the Sol system. Commander Reth of the Torak was assigned to monitor the humans. He considered it an insult. He was a decorated warrior with over 200 confirmed kills in battle. Now he sat in a dark room, staring at screens, watching a primitive species do whatever primitive species did. Movement detected near Jupiter, his sensor operator reported. Multiple contacts. Thousands of them. Ref leaned forward in his chair. Thousands? The humans barely have a few hundred military vessels in their entire fleet. The count is still rising, Commander. 5,000. 7,000. 10,000 contacts and still counting. Reth stood up so fast his chair flew backward. He stared at the screen, his reptilian eyes wide with disbelief. The space around Jupiter was filling with ships. They came from everywhere. From Earth, from Mars, from stations hidden in asteroid belts that Coalition intelligence had never even detected. Where did they come from? Reth demanded. No one could answer him. By the end of day 1, over 40,000 human vessels had gathered near Jupiter. By day 5, the number had grown to 100,000. By day 15, it had surpassed 200,000. Reth sent a report to High Command. The response he received was skeptical. Surely the humans were counting civilian vessels, cargo ships and transports. Nothing that could actually fight in a war. But Reth watched the footage more carefully. He saw civilian cargo ships being modified in orbit, their hulls reinforced with armor plating, their cargo bays converted into weapon batteries. He saw factory ships printing new vessels around the clock, their automated systems never stopping, never resting. He saw transport ships being loaded with soldiers, supplies, and equipment. The humans were not preparing for war. They were transforming their entire civilization into a war machine. On day 20, Kira of the Velith arrived at the observation station. Her mission was to gather intelligence on human communications. She spent 3 days analyzing their signals before she requested a meeting with Commander Reth. "I have intercepted something unusual," she said. Human military communications include detailed logistics reports. They're tracking everything. Food rations calculated by weight. Medical supplies sorted by injury type. Ammunition counted to the individual bullet. Reth did not understand why this was unusual. All militaries track supplies. Not like this, Kira said. They are not just tracking supplies. They are tracking people. Every soldier has a psychological readiness assessment. Every soldier has a letter from their family stored in the military database. Every soldier has a designated burial location if they do not return. Reth felt something cold move through his chest. They expect to die. No, Kira corrected him. They know they might die, and they have accepted it, before the war has even begun. On day 30, the observation station intercepted a broadcast from Earth. General Taeyeon of the Korean Stellar Division was addressing his troops before they departed for the staging area. The broadcast was not encrypted. It was meant for the soldiers' families to watch. Reth and Kira watched it together. General Taeyeon was an older man with gray hair and a face marked by decades of service. He stood on a platform in front of thousands of soldiers, their uniforms crisp and their eyes forward. "You are not going to war for glory," General Taeyeon said. "You are not going to war for conquest. You are going to war because if you do not, the people behind you will die. Your parents, your children, your friends, everyone you have ever loved." He paused. His voice grew softer. "Some of you will not come home. I will not lie to you about this. War is not a game. War is not an adventure. War is death and pain and loss. But you have chosen to face that death so that others do not have to. And for that, you have my respect. You have the respect of every person on Earth. And you will have the respect of history." He raised his hand in a salute. "Go now. Fight well. Protect what matters. And if you fall, know that you did not fall in vain." The soldiers saluted back. They did not cheer. They did not roar. They simply stood in silence, their faces calm, their eyes steady. Reth turned off the recording. His claws were trembling slightly. "I have fought in 37 wars," he said quietly. "I have seen warriors from 100 species. The Mortith go to battle screaming prophecies of doom. The Krell sing songs of ancient victories. My own people roar challenges to our enemies." He looked at Kira. "The humans do not do any of these things. They simply accept death and keep moving forward. I do not understand it." Kira's compound eyes reflected the light of the screens around them. "I have completed my analysis," she said. "I have calculated the psychological profiles of the human species based on their communications. What did you find?" "They are afraid," Kira said. "Every single one of them is afraid. Their fear readings are higher than any species I have ever studied." Reth frowned. "Then why do they fight?" Kira was silent for a long moment. "Because they love something more than they fear death," she said finally. "I do not know how to calculate for that variable. It does not exist in my models." They sent their report to Coalition High Command. The report was simple. The humans are coming. They are afraid. They expect to die. And they are coming anyway. High Commander Malik read the report in his quarters aboard the Torak flagship. He read it 3 times. Then he sat in silence for a very long time. For the first time in his 300 years of life, he felt something he did not recognize on. It took him several hours to realize it was respect. The Coalition sent observers to Earth on day 35. They wanted to understand what the humans were doing. They expected to find chaos panic, and disorder. They found something very different. Commander Sujin met the observers at the Seoul spaceport. She was a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and a voice that carried the weight of too many sleepless nights. Her uniform was wrinkled. Her hair was not perfectly combed. She looked like someone who had not rested in weeks. "Welcome to Earth," she said. "I apologize for my appearance. We have been busy." The observer team consisted of 3 Torak warriors, 2 Velith analysts, and 1 Orin elder. They towered over Sujin, but she did not seem intimidated by their size or their reputation. "We wish to observe your military preparations," the lead Torak said. Sujin nodded. "Of course. But first, I want to show you something else." She led them through the city streets. The observers expected to see military parades, weapons demonstrations, or training facilities. Instead, Sujin brought them to a school. Inside, children sat in neat rows, listening to their teacher explain emergency procedures. The teacher showed them how to find the nearest shelter, how to stay calm during an attack, how to help younger children who might be scared. "Why are you showing us this?" the Orin elder asked. "These are children. They cannot fight." "No," Sujin agreed. "They cannot fight, but they can survive. And if they survive, then everything we do has meaning." She walked them through the city for the next several hours. They saw hospitals preparing extra beds and training new medical staff. They saw factories converting from consumer goods to military equipment. They saw ordinary people volunteering for emergency response teams, learning first aid, and practicing evacuation drills. An elderly woman was teaching a group of young adults how to ration food supplies. A teenage boy was helping his grandmother memorize the location of the nearest underground shelter. A father was recording a video message for his daughter, who had already left with the fleet. "Your entire population is preparing," one of the Velith observers noted. "Not just your military, everyone." "Yes," Sujin said. "In human wars, everyone is affected." "So everyone prepares?" The next day, the observers traveled to Mars. Colonel Jiho commanded the ground forces training center in the red deserts outside the colony domes. He was a lean man with sharp eyes and hands covered in scars. He greeted the observers with a short bow and immediately led them to the training grounds. What they saw there would stay with them for the rest of their lives. Human soldiers were running combat drills in conditions that would kill most species. The temperature was far below freezing. The air was thin and difficult to breathe. The terrain was rough and dangerous. The soldiers wore minimal protection. They carried heavy equipment. They fought through obstacle courses designed to exhaust them completely. One soldier fell. His legs simply gave out beneath him. The observers expected his commanders to leave him behind or punish him for weakness. Instead, 2 of his fellow soldiers immediately ran to his side. They lifted him up, put his arms over their shoulders, and carried him forward. "Why do they help him?" the Torak observer asked. "He is slowing them down. In our military, the weak are left behind to strengthen the group." Colonel Jiho looked at the Torak with an expression the alien could not read. "In our military," Jiho said, "we do not leave anyone behind. Ever. A soldier who knows his brothers will carry him fights harder than a soldier who fears being abandoned." The drill continued. The observers watched soldiers push through pain, exhaustion, and simulated horrors. They saw men and women cry from the stress, wipe their tears, and keep going. They saw soldiers who had every reason to quit refuse to give up. At the end of the drill, Colonel Jiho gathered his troops. They were covered in dirt and sweat. Some of them could barely stand. But they all looked at their commander with eyes full of trust. "Tomorrow we do it again," Jiho said. "And the day after. And the day after that. Until every one of you can do this in your sleep." Because when the hollow come, you will need to do this while everything around you is dying. And you will need to do it while protecting the person next to you. The soldiers did not complain. They simply nodded and walked back to their barracks, already preparing for the next day. On the final day of the observation mission, the team visited the Luna shipyards. Chief Engineer Hannah was a small woman who moved through the massive construction facility like she owned every inch of it. Which, in a way, she did. She had designed half of the systems that kept the shipyard running. The observers watched in amazement as thousands of workers assembled warships at impossible speed. The facility operated in 3 rotating shifts. There was no downtime, no rest periods, no breaks except for essential needs. 2 months ago, this facility built civilian transports, Hannah explained. Passenger ships, cargo haulers, luxury yachts for rich people. She pointed to a half-finished warship, its skeleton of metal beams reaching toward the stars. Now we build weapons. The same workers, the same equipment, different purpose. How? The Aran elder asked. How do your people adapt so quickly? Our species spent 300 years converting our economy for war. Hannah laughed. It was a tired laugh, but it was genuine. Humans have been fighting each other for 10,000 years, she said. We have started and ended more wars than any species in the galaxy. We have destroyed ourselves and rebuilt ourselves more times than we can count. She looked at the observers with eyes that suddenly seemed much older than her face. We know exactly what we are capable of. That is both our greatest strength and our greatest shame. The observers returned to the coalition with their report. It was not a document of numbers and statistics. It was a warning. The humans are not preparing for war, the report said. They are transforming into it. Their entire species, from children to elders, has become a single weapon aimed at the hollow. And unlike any other species in the coalition, they have done this before. Many times. We recommend the coalition reconsider its assessment of human capabilities. High Commander Malik read the report. Then he read it again. Then he began to prepare his own forces with a new sense of urgency that the humans were coming. And Malik was beginning to realize that might change everything. The Kairos Nebula was a cloud of purple and gold gas that stretched across 12 light years. It was beautiful, but that was not why the coalition had chosen it as their staging ground. The nebula's radiation interfered with enemy sensors, making it the perfect place to gather a fleet without being detected. For 3 weeks, the ships of the coalition had been arriving. The Torak brought their dreadnoughts, massive vessels bristling with weapons. The Velith brought their hive ships, each one carrying millions of warrior drones. The Aran brought their crystal destroyers, their hulls singing with barely contained, destructive energy. Dozens of other species added their fleets to the gathering armada. It was the largest military force the galaxy had ever assembled. Over 2 million warships, crewed by beings from 100 different worlds, all united against a common enemy. And still, there was doubt. The Hollow had destroyed civilizations that made the coalition look like children. 10,000 years ago, they had nearly wiped out all intelligent life in the galaxy. The combined might of every species had barely pushed them back into the void between galaxies. And now they were returning, stronger than before. On the 60th day, the human fleet arrived. High Commander Malik stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the sensor displays. He had seen the reports. He had read the numbers. But nothing had prepared him for what he witnessed. The first human ships emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 100 vessels. Then 1,000. Then 10,000. They kept coming, wave after wave, filling the space around the nebula with metal and light. 50,000 ships. 100,000. 200,000. The final count was 347,000 vessels. Malik's communications officer turned to him with wide eyes. "Sir, we are receiving identification signals. They are not just military ships. There are converted cargo haulers, modified passenger liners, and mining vessels fitted with weapons. They brought everything," Malik said quietly. "Everything that could fly and fight. They brought." But it was not the ships that made the greatest impression. Malik requested a visual link with one of the human vessels, a carrier called Soul's Promise. Captain Minho accepted the connection, and suddenly Malik was looking at the bridge of a human warship. The crew moved with quiet efficiency. There was no shouting, no chaos, no nervous energy. Every person knew exactly what they needed to do and did it without hesitation. Their faces were calm, their movements precise. Captain Minho was a young man, barely 40 years old by human standards. He had black hair cut short and eyes that seemed to look through things rather than at them. "High Commander," Minho said, "the Earth fleet is ready to receive tactical assignments." Malik studied the human captain. "You and your crew seem very calm. Do you not understand what we are about to face?" Minho smiled slightly. It was not a happy smile. "We understand perfectly," he said. "We have said goodbye to our families. We have made our peace with whatever gods we believe in. We have accepted that we may not survive the coming battle." He paused. "That is why we are calm. The fear comes from uncertainty. We have no more uncertainty. We know what we must do. We know what it might cost us. We are ready." Malik ended the communication and stood in silence for a long moment. Around him, his Torak officers shifted uncomfortably. They had never seen their commander so quiet. "Prepare a shuttle," Malik said finally. "I wish to meet their admiral in person." Admiral Do-hyun received Malik aboard the command ship Earth's Resolve. The human flagship was not impressive by coalition standards. It was smaller than a Torak dreadnought, less elegant than a Velith hive ship, and utterly plain compared to an Oran crystal destroyer, but it was clean, efficient, and filled with crew members who looked at Malik without fear. Do-hyun was an older man with gray hair and a face lined by years of service. He wore a simple uniform with minimal decorations. He greeted Malik with a handshake, a human gesture of respect. "High Commander," Do-hyun said. "Thank you for allowing us to join the fleet." Malik towered over the human admiral. He could have crushed Do-hyun with one hand. But somehow, standing in that plain corridor surrounded by calm human crew members, Malik did not feel like the larger one. "Among my people," Malik said, "it is traditional to greet allies with a boast. We share our victories, our kills, our greatest battles. It establishes our worth as warriors." Do-hyun nodded. "I have read about your customs. Then you know I should ask you to share your people's greatest military achievement." Do-hyun was silent for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. "Our greatest military achievement is that we have stopped fighting each other long enough to stand with you today. For most of our history, humans have been our own worst enemy. We have killed more of our own kind than all the alien species we have ever encountered combined." He looked at Malik with steady eyes. "We are very good at war, High Commander. We wish we were not, but we are. And now, for the first time in our history, our entire species is united against a single enemy. So I will not boast of ancient victories. I will simply tell you this. We are ready to fight, and we will not stop until the Hollow are destroyed or we are dead." Malik stood very still. In 300 years of warfare, he had met warriors from every corner of the galaxy. He had fought beside heroes and legends. He had seen courage and skill that would fill 1,000 songs. But he had never felt what he felt standing in front of this small, fragile human. "What do your people need from the coalition?" Malik asked. Do-hyun shook his hand again. "Just point us at the enemy," he said. We will handle the rest." 3 days later, the scouts reported that the hollow had been detected at the edge of the system. The war had begun. Malik stood on his bridge and watched the human fleet move into position. 300,000 ships, crewed by beings who expected to die, moving forward without hesitation. The galaxy's mightiest warriors fell silent, not from doubt, not from fear, not from respect. The hollow came like a tide of nightmares. Their ships were not built from metal or crystal or any material that Coalition could identify. They looked like something grown rather than constructed, their hulls black and twisted, their weapons glowing with sickly green light. They did not communicate. They did not negotiate. They simply consumed. The first wave hit the Coalition lines at the Vila threshold, a narrow passage of clear space between two dense asteroid fields. It was the only route to the populated systems beyond. If the Coalition fell here, trillions of lives would be lost. The Torak charged first. That was their way. High Commander Malik led his dreadnoughts directly into the enemy formation, his ships firing every weapon they had. The Torak warriors roared their battle cries across the communication channels, their voices shaking with centuries of warrior pride. The Velith flanked the enemy, their hive ships releasing clouds of fighter drones that swarmed the hollow vessels. Kira coordinated the attack with cold precision, her calculations guiding thousands of ships with perfect efficiency. The Orn unleashed their resonance weapons, beams of pure harmonic energy that shattered hollow ships into fragments. For a moment, it seemed like the Coalition might hold. Then the hollow adapted. New ships emerged from behind the first wave, vessels that seemed to absorb the Coalition's weapons. The Torak dreadnoughts began to fall. The Vela swarms were overwhelmed. Even the Arn resonance beams began to fail as the hollow adjusted their defenses. The Coalition lines started to break. On the bridge of Earth's Resolve, Admiral Do-hyun watched the battle unfold. His officers reported the casualty numbers with steady voices, but he could see the fear in their eyes. They were losing. "Admiral," his tactical officer said, "the Coalition center is collapsing. If we do not reinforce them, the line will fall within the hour." Do-hyun nodded slowly. He had known this moment would come. He had prepared for it. "Signal all human vessels," he said. "Execute Operation Final Light." The human fleet moved forward. Colonel Jiho led the ground assault teams toward a captured Coalition station that the hollow had taken as a forward base. His soldiers poured out of their transport ships and into the corridors of the station, fighting room by room against enemies that did not feel pain or fear. The fighting was brutal. Human soldiers fell by the dozens, then by the hundreds. But they did not retreat. When their guns ran empty, they fought with knives. When their knives broke, they fought with their hands. When they could no longer stand, they crawled forward and grabbed the legs of their enemies. Jiho took a wound to his shoulder that would have killed most species. He wrapped the wound with one hand and kept firing with the other. "Push forward," he shouted to his soldiers. "Every meter we take is a meter they cannot use against our families." They pushed forward. They took the station. When the fighting was over, fewer than 100 of the original 3,000 soldiers were still alive in space. Captain Minho faced an impossible choice. A hollow command ship had broken through the Coalition lines and was heading directly toward the refugee fleet, evacuating the civilian populations. Millions of innocent lives were about to be extinguished. Minho's carrier, Soul's Promise, was the only ship close enough to intercept. "All hands," Minho announced over the ship's communication system. "Prepare to abandon ship. Report to escape pods immediately." His crew looked at him with understanding eyes. They knew what he was planning. They did not argue. They simply followed his orders and moved toward the pods. Minho stayed at the helm. He aimed his ship directly at the hollow command vessel and pushed the engines to maximum power. "Sir," his last remaining officer said, "the crew is away. You should go too." Minho shook his head. "Someone needs to make sure this ship hits its target. Go." "That is an order." The officer saluted and left. Minho watched him go, then turned back to the viewport. The hollow command ship filled his vision, growing larger every second. He thought about his wife waiting back on Earth. He thought about his daughter, who had just started school. He thought about all the people on those refugee ships who would live because of what he was about to do. For them, he whispered. Soul's promise struck the hollow command ship at full speed. The resulting explosion destroyed both vessels and damaged 3 more enemy ships. The refugee fleet escaped. Across the battle, similar sacrifices were happening. Human ships rammed enemy vessels when their weapons failed. Human crews fought to the last person to buy time for their allies. Human soldiers threw themselves on explosives to save their units. Commander Sujin had been coordinating rescue operations behind enemy lines, pulling wounded soldiers from destroyed ships regardless of their species. When a hollow boarding party found her location, she ordered her team to evacuate with the wounded. "What about you?" One of her officers asked. Sujin looked at the approaching enemy signatures on her screen. Then she looked at the 300 wounded soldiers being loaded onto the rescue ships. Torak, Velith, Orin, and Human, all mixed together. "Someone needs to slow them down," she said. She activated the explosives she had strapped to her chest before the mission began. The rescue ships escaped. Sujin did not dot, and then there was General Taeyeon. His flagship, Inchin's Pride, had been protecting the Coalition's command center. When the Hollow launched a massive assault on that position, Taeyeon ordered his ship to move between the enemy and the station. "General," his communications officer reported, "we are detecting over 200 enemy vessels approaching our position. We cannot survive that attack." Taeyeon looked at his crew. They were young, most of them. Children, really. They had families waiting for them back home. They had lives they wanted to live. They also had people counting on them. "Can we hold long enough for the station to evacuate?" Taeyeon asked. His tactical officer ran the calculations. "If we divert all power to shields and weapons, we can hold for approximately 7 minutes. Then we hold for 7 minutes. He opened a channel to the entire Coalition fleet. His voice was calm and steady, the voice of a man who had made his peace long ago. "This is General Taeyeon of the Korean Stellar Division. We are holding position at the command center. All Coalition vessels, continue your operations. We will buy you time." He paused. "It has been an honor serving with you all. Hold the line. We will see you on the other side." Inchin's Pride held for 9 minutes and 43 seconds before it was finally destroyed. In that time, the Coalition command station completed its evacuation. The senior officers and their tactical data survived to continue directing the battle. The Hollow broke 3 hours later. The Coalition won. The enemy retreated back into the void. Their invasion shattered. 1 year after the battle, Ambassador Yuna stood in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Coalition once again. The hall was silent, just as it had been the first time she stood there. But this silence was different. "You asked us why we fight the way we do," Yuna said. "Why we prepare so thoroughly. Why we accept death so readily." She looked at the gathered species. The Torak, who no longer laughed. The Velith, who had removed the humans from their extinction probability models. The Orin, who had composed songs about human bravery. "It is because we are afraid," Yuna said. "We have always been afraid. We do not have armor or claws or centuries to live. All we have is each other. And we know that if we do not stand together, we fall alone." She paused. 12 million humans did not return from this war. They gave their lives so that others might live. Not just human lives. All lives. That is what we are. That is what we have always been. We are small and weak and frightened. But we love each other. And we will burn down the universe to protect what we love." High Commander Malik rose from his seat. The greatest warrior of the Torak walked across the hall and stopped in front of the small human ambassador. Then he knelt. "The Torak honor the fallen," he said. "The humans have earned our eternal respect." One by one, the other species followed. The Velith, the Arn, all of them kneeling before the representative of a species they had once dismissed as worthless. Yuna looked at them with tears in her eyes. "They did not fight for your respect," she said softly. "They fought for your survival, just as you fought for ours." She reached down and helped Malik rise. "We are all in this together now. All of us, one galaxy, one people." The hall remained silent, but it was a respectful silence. A silence of understanding. A silence that would echo across the stars for 10,000 more years.